Iga Swiatek says never take anything for granted. That does not sound good to me, ladies and gentlemen. Are we preparing for the consolation speech? What is going on here? But nonetheless, just showing her gratitude and gratefulness for just working so hard, achieving the results, and just being appreciative in the moment. So congratulations to Iga Swiatek. She prevails as she defeats Leolia John in straight sets. Warsaw in the building, ladies and gentlemen. But let's touch upon that topic a little bit. As Iga Swiatek, she's packing up. She's getting ready to show love to the fans. Never take anything for granted. Now, I talked about Iga Swiatek being a 5-1 favorite to win her quarter and reach the semifinal. And for those of you that aren't aware, a 5-1 favorite means if you wager $5 on Iga Swiatek to win her quarter, you will win $1. I try to explain the odds very easy and break it down very simple so it's clear, and anyone that doesn't understand this stuff can understand it. She's a 5-1 favorite. That's the highest he's ever been, guys. It's Is that disrespectful to the draw? Now, to hear Iga Swiatek say never take anything for granted, is she preparing to lose? I don't like that type of mentality, right? You have to see yourself holding that trophy for the fourth time. I mean, she's got three already. She's amazing. But you have to see yourself holding that trophy for the fourth time. Any little bit of doubt that you allow to creep in, it's not a good thing as she takes on four-time slam champion, all on hard, two times at the US Open, two times in Australia, Naomi Osaka. Now, they've played each other officially. The head-to-head is 1-1, but listen, I could have sworn they played three times. Now, again, I've covered so many matches that, sometimes, especially with Osaka being away, kind of lost focus on her. And I mean, look, it happens, but I could have sworn they've played three times. Now, the database that I'm using on the WTA says they played twice, but I've caught this database being wrong. I've called it out with some of these matches played being wrong in the past, and I've showed receipts. They are not always accurate with this stuff. For the most part, the top players are accurate, but I've caught some of the players, the mid-tier players, just having wrong numbers here. And I've called it out and I've proved receipts because I've had the videos. I forgot what player it was. There's been several. It hasn't just been one. I've caught at least 5 to 6 of these matches played, statistics being wrong, and I've showed the receipts with the matches that I've covered on the channel here. But it says they've officially played twice. I could have sworn Iga has beat Osaka two times. I could have sworn the head-to-head is 2-1. I could sworn it's 2-1. I'm telling you. Does anyone know? Is there a match that I'm forgetting? Because the official head-to-head on the WTA list, they played in Toronto in 2019, and that's a match where I guess you can say that was Iga's coming out party, where I told you guys Iga will be number one day. And Osaka, in case you're not familiar, they were really good friends around that time. They used to do a lot of Zoom together and just have fun and crack jokes. So I imagine they still have to be good friends. But we all know Iga's bestie is Keija Yuvan. But what's up with Chow and Linska? I thought that was Iga's bestie. Like, I don't know. But Iga says she has a small circle of friends, and I would imagine she's got to be in the context list. She has to be in Iga's context list. But matter of fact, do they follow each other on social media? That's a good thing. By the way, I am on Twitter, tennis in a minute. I'm on Instagram, but I don't have time to update those. I just don't have time to update and post on there. I don't know how these people do it. I mean, well, actually, I know how they do it. They hire marketing companies to promote their stuff. They're not even on it. And the minute I get to that point, that means the interaction is going to stop. And I don't want that. Like I said, I don't care if I do 1 view or 100 views. It's all about the love of the game, and being able to talk about this stuff in the comments with fans and subscribers. I think that's what it's all about. The minute I get to the point where I go out and I'm not even managing the channel, then there's no point, because I don't do this for money. I said this time and time again. It's for the love of the game. And I could have sworn that these two ladies have played three times. But nonetheless, Iga Swiatek, she lost to Osaka in Toronto, and this is a tough match. The first set went to a tie break, and I watched that match, and I'm saying to myself, she's going to be number one day. This was when Osaka was in form. I'm like, she's too good. Quick strike tennis. She's literally keeping Osaka on the back foot. But I do think Osaka is the cleanest ball striker in tennis. That's just my personal opinion. But she hasn't played a lot on clay. And, I coach my kids, and a lot of times I tell them, whatever you're strong at, whatever you're good at, double down on that, right? If you're good at if your backhand's amazing, double down on that. That's where you want to get to. Yes, you can improve your forehand, make it, to the point where you're not losing because of it. But if your strength is your backhand, double down on it. That's what you need. You need to use your strengths. Play to your strengths. That's how you win matches. And I just feel that Osaka, being one of the cleanest ball strikers with her serve and her forehand followed up with that, I feel if she's going to beat Iga Swiatek for a second time, she has to serve well. That's her strength. Osaka's strength is her serve, but she's good when she steps up mid court and she comes cross court with her back and her forehand. She can go down the line with the forehand. She has a nice jump backhand where she wants to style and profile on you. The problem here is she just hasn't played a lot of clay matches because, like I said, she plays to her strengths. Her strengths is hard. She's a two-time U.S. Open champion. She's a two-time Australian Open champion. That's her strength. That's where she's played. She's ignored Wimbledon. She's ignored the French Open. I mean, the last time they played Wimbledon, when the Russians were and the Belarus players weren't allowed to play, a couple of years ago, Osaka said, there's no point of me playing if there's no points. No pun intended, no point. There's no point, which I agree. So she didn't play, and she's that type of player. And I've questioned in the past. She's an amazing talent, but she's a natural, right? And sometimes when you're a natural and you're really good at something, you kind of take it for granted. Back to Iga's comments there. You kind of take it for granted. I felt, and Osaka said this herself. She said she hasn't been appreciative in the past, and this could also be a phrase to Osaka. This could be a message that Osaka needs to hear. Because Osaka, she's taking the game for granted. And the reason why players do that, and this is where I defend Osaka, is because they're not necessarily in love with it. They love it, but they may not be in love with it. Iga's, you can tell she's in love with tennis. Tennis was her second passion. Swimming was her first passion. And I remember Osaka talking about Serena Williams, and the same with Sloane Stephens. And I bring this up because they were questioned, or I mean, they were just kind of supporting Serena, right? And they mentioned a couple things like, Sloane and Osaka, like for her to play so long, she must really love tennis. And Osaka's like, I don't plan to play that long. And that tells me that, she possibly loves the sport, but I don't think she's in love with the sport. And I could tell by just not, I don't think Osaka's been necessarily dedicated to playing tennis. I just think and I want to be careful how I word that because you don't become a four-time slam champion without being dedicated. I just think that there's a level she could have reached that if she put in a little bit more effort, and again, it sounds bad on the surface level, but I think you guys know what I'm trying to say here. I think there's a level Osaka could have reached, and she can still reach that. I just think that with tennis, unlike other sports, when you're at your peak, if you don't get and take as much as you can and put in as much as you can to win and win, once you come down from that level, it's tough to get back to it. And that's what separates Serena from everyone else, is because we've seen her come up as a teenager and maintain that level of play over the span of 3 decades, let's say 4, right? The late 90s, right? The early 2000s, the 10s, and she was dominant early on in 2020, 2021. So that's 4 decades where we've seen Serena just dominate the sport. That takes a lot of dedication and hard work. And a lot of people, I've said it, you see these players fall off in a year or two. They have a good season, and that next training camp coming into the season, they maybe get injured. They don't put their all into training camp, and that's it. They can't get back, especially when you're in your upper 20s or early 30s. It's tough to train. And Kobe Bryant, I think, said it best. He said, look, this guy was still averaging in his 20s in terms of points per game, he was still one of the elite players in the game. He said, look, it's so tough getting your body ready for game shape. And he said, I just can't put my body through that anymore. It's just so tough. And the same with tennis players. Tennis is such a grueling sport. I just felt Osaka, she's had a level where she hasn't gone to. So she's going to take on Iga Swiatek. Yana Fett's in the lower bracket. She's going to take on Mary Boo. That's going to be a good match. I think Bushkova beats Yana Fett. She's going to get too many balls back and pressure her. But Iga did win the last time they played in Miami. That was the championship. She actually gave Osaka a bagel, and Osaka wasn't in form. That was in 22. Osaka wasn't in her best form, and she still made it to the championship, which is scary to think that Osaka can make a championship at a Master 1000 without being in her best form. If Osaka's best is a 10, I'd probably say Osaka playing that year in Miami was probably a 6.5 or a 7. That's how much more better she could have been, right? I think if Osaka's at her best, I don't think Iga can beat her because she's stronger than Iga, right? She's got a better serve. Osaka does everything Rybakina does, but just more cleaner, more technical. And she's stronger. Osaka's ground strokes are very powerful. They're very, very powerful. And she's accurate. Osaka does not make a lot of mistakes. People don't understand that. She does not, whether it's her serve and faults, whether it's her unforced errors, she's not making a lot of mistakes. She's that good. And I feel if she didn't have the mental issues and the things going on off the court, if she didn't have the baby, if she just played her level from 18 to now, I'd say she at least have 8 Grand Slams without a doubt. I mean, you take all those U.S. Open winners and Australian Open winners, give Osaka 4 more, you know. And this is going to be a good matchup here. But again, if can anyone verify? I could have sworn they played 3 times. I could have sworn they played 3 times, but nonetheless, the head-to-head officially is listed at 1-1. Who's going to win this match? I mean, you have to favor Iga on clay, but again, will Iga make the semifinal match? I don't know if she will. Stay tuned. Tennis in a minute. Iga's dominant today over John John. She'll take on Osaka next.